Hello everyone, thank you for checking out my YouTube channel or my video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a hat using your Addi Express. This is my Addi Express. This is the king size professional with 46 needles, and I'm going to be talking to you about some of the basics of knitting a hat with this, and a couple of other things. So one of the most important things that I have discovered is always pull your yarn from the middle of your skein. These are called skeins. I used to refer to them as rolls of yarn, but they're called skeins. That's the technical term. So the easiest way to let your yarn out is through the middle, and that way you're not having to fight with it and flipping it and flapping it, and it's just a big hassle when you have to do that. So when you're pulling it directly from the middle, it makes it easy, and there's no mess and no frustration. So today I'll be using Deborah Norville collection every day. This is Premier Yarns, and this is a 3.5 ounce, so about 180 yards, and this is an anti-pilling acrylic, so the color is Parfait. It's a medium weight, number 4, and it's machine wash and tumble dry, so you can toss that right into the wash, and it's supposed to be anti-pilling, which is fantastic. So we're going to start out with our Slipknot. If you have not yet mastered the Slipknot, you can always refer to my video for lefties on how to make a Slipknot. Anytime you're working with the Addi Express, you want to start with the first black needle. There are 3. 1, 2, 3. So you want to start with the first black needle and place your Slipknot onto that black needle and tighten it up. Not too tight though. Then from here we're going to go front, behind, front, behind. And as you can see, when you go in front, it actually is catching under the needle, okay? Front, behind. I'm going to speed up. Front, behind, front, behind, front, behind, front, behind. And just keep going like that. And this is how you cast on. And if you have any issues with casting on, I do have a tutorial on how to cast on, okay? So once you get back to the very first black needle, from there everything is just going to go in front. So we're going to go ahead and open up our feeder, and we're going to place our yarn into the feeder. And as you can see, this is where we started, and the yarn is going right under that needle, so it's going to catch. And once you're cast on, you can go ahead and start turning your handle. And I'm going to make a small lady's hat. So that's going to be about 95 revolutions. I wear a small because I have kind of a small head, I think. And I have a difficult time finding small hats for ladies because I think most people have a bigger head than I do. Maybe that means that they have bigger brains. I don't know. I hope not, but regardless, I do have kind of a small head, and so with that, I am going to presume there are other women out there who have a smaller head like I do, and who have trouble finding a super duper comfortable, perfect fitting hat as I do. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this handle about 95 revolutions, which is it's more times when you're turning the handle, but if you're using the counter, which I do, then you're going to want to turn it, you're going to want to count 95 times. Another very important key in using the Addi Express is that when your yarn is turning through here and you're pulling on your yarn here and giving it a little bit of tension, you do get a field of static buildup in through the middle and around the machine. So one of the things that I do is I keep my hands moisturized with just any moisturizing lotion, and that helps my hands stay moisturized and prevent some of the static electricity. Because if you were to have static electricity in your hands and touch the machine, it actually can reset your counter back to 0, and that's terrible. Because if you don't remember what number you were on, or you know, if you really rely on that like I do, then you know you're gonna have to manually count how many you're at, and then there's always a chance that you're like off by a few. And not that it's a huge deal, but you know, like I said, if you want a perfect fitting hat, then you want as many rounds as you need, and no more and no less. And 10 rounds can make a difference, so just be aware of that. So right now we are just turning and pulling the yarn through, and I'm actually going to speed up the video through to about 90 something. So we'll see you back here in just a few minutes. What?
Maybe very quiet. Oh.
recording.
Oh.
Love you too, baby. Alright, so we're back, and as you can see, the pattern is coming out quite nicely. And this is going to be the outside of the hat. So, and I don't know if you noticed through the process, but I'll fold it up and pull it in like this because it puts an even amount of weight distribution on the yarn, so that when it's pulling on it, it pulls evenly. So we're at 94, and I'm just looking for that first black needle, which is here. And at this point, we're ready to go ahead and cut our yarn to tie off the hat. You don't need a whole lot of yarn. I don't know, maybe this is like 8 or 9 inches, maybe a little bit longer. You don't need too much because it's just going to end up becoming waist yarn anyways, but you do need enough to be able to cast off the machine. So what you want to do is you want to find a needle. These are called Tapestry Needles, and the Addi machine actually comes with a red plastic tapestry needle, but I have somehow misplaced that particular tapestry needle. So I'm just gonna get probably this size, because you don't want it to be too wide because it's going to need to fit between the needle area. Oh, I'm dropping them everywhere. So this is the one I want. From here we're going to open this up. We're going to close it back up, and then we're going to spin it. Okay, let's go ahead and thread our needle. It's not too hard. And then we're going to start with the very next one, which would be the first black one. We're going to grab it up, and as you're pulling it, be sure to pull down, because if you start pulling up, then what's going to happen is it's going to pull up some of the next ones, and then you will end up losing your loop or your stitch or whatever you want to call it, and it can be a pain to get that back. And I just know this from experience. I've actually gotten so frustrated before that I've just started all the way at the beginning again. So if you don't want that time to have been wasted, then you just be cautious of how you're pulling the yarn. So you want to always pull down versus pulling upwards, okay? And at some point, you know, when you get a lot of practice and you become very familiar with using the machine, you'll be able to do this a lot faster. But if you're still very new, then I would suggest doing one at a time and just going at a very steady pace so that you're not losing your stitches and you're not losing your place, because anything that you do out of order, say for instance we didn't pull this one up and we skipped it and we stitched this one, then that's a whole nother thing you have to deal with. And if you're planning on selling your items, or if you're planning on making a multitude of items, that can really put a damper on your average time per item, and it can drive up the cost or the price of what you're selling. So one of these hats should probably take about 15 to 20 minutes to make from start to finish, pending no major catastrophes. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. And voila, our hat is complete. So as you can see, we simply have a tunnel of a material, okay? So we don't want to leave it as this because it really is nothing. I mean, you can maybe use it as like a cowl or something, but in reality, it's really just a tube. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take, now this side's always the easiest because it's just a cast off, and this yarn will slide right through, okay? And you tighten the end of it, and you make sure that it's untucked, because if it's tucked in, then the top of it will like flower out, and you don't want that. Some people do make hats like that. I don't prefer them, but you can if you want to. The other side is a little more intricate because you have your slip knot, and you can't just pull it and tighten the end of it because there's a knot here. Okay, so what I always do is just undo the knot.
Right there.
And as you can hear, my daughter is listening to YouTube, her favorite. From there, you just, oh, and sometimes that happens where it twists funny. I don't know why. I always put the yarn on the first needle the exact same way every single time, but do not let that drop. Put your crochet hook into this particular stitch to hold it, and then put it into the one that was dropped, and then pull your cast on yarn back in and through so you do not have that drop stitch. And from there you can pull it, and it's like magic. I don't know why it does that sometimes, it just does. So it's just a matter of being cautious and paying attention to what's happening with your stitches and your piece that you're making, and getting to know how your machine works. Okay, so from here we're going to go ahead and fold this in, and we are going to push this yarn tail through both of the openings in the top. Okay, so we can bring them together and we can tie off a nice hat. Just love this yarn. This is fantastic. This is like a really pretty hat. And so we're going to just make a regular knot here, and we're going to pull them super tight. Now just be careful that you do not break your yarn. I've done that many times, and I've had to re-loop each of these individual stitches, and that can definitely be time consuming. So as you can see, I pulled it tight and I closed up that particular opening, and I'm going to tie it one more time to make sure that it doesn't come undone. From here, I'm going to make extra sure that we don't lose the shape to our hat, but I have to get rid of some of this extra yarn. So you remember I told you we're going to end up wasting some of it, so it happens. There's really nothing you can do about it. I wish there was, but there's not. So this is when we're going to need another tapestry needle, and using a little bit of a bigger one is okay in this particular case because you need to get a good handle on it and be able to push it through some stitches and some yarn. And so you want to put those on there, and those are your two strings that are coming through here. And what we're going to do is we're going to We're going to push it back through our 2 holes. Okay. Oh, I like this side better. Do I? Let's choose. This one has the top. Yeah, I do. I do like this side better, or the inside better. So I'm going to pull it through once. I'm going to push it through again, just to sew the 2 of these together. Just to sew the 2 of the top portion of the 2 together. And then we're going to make this our underside. And you want to get as close, you really want to get the very first top stitches in here when you're closing it up and you're tying it up and making sure that it doesn't come undone. So as you can see, I'm just working it in, tying it off. You don't want to grab a lot of yarn, because if you do, your hat's just going to bulk up right on top there, and then it's going to look funny, and you won't like it, I promise. Well, you might like it, but you probably won't. So you just tie it up a little bit, and I'm going to do it here and then across. So I kind of just do like 4 corners-ish, so that I know it's not going to come undone. I don't want somebody wearing one of my hats that I've made them, and then the next thing you know, it's come undone, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, nobody's gonna want to come back and really tell you it because they feel bad, and they just aren't gonna buy it from you again, or they're not going to come to you the next time they need one. So you don't want that. You want to make sure that they come back to you each and every time they want a hat. So there you have it. So now we can get rid of some of this excess. I'm going to cut it about here. And then I'm going to take one of my Tunisian crochet hooks. And we'll learn more about that a little bit later on. And we're going to drive it up here, and we're going to bring it to the very top, as far to the top as we possibly can. And then we're going to grab it, and we're going to pull it into the middle of those 2 layers. Okay, and that's how you hide it. And then we're going to flip it to the outside, this is the side that I liked. And from here, you can do any number of things that you want with it. It's fantastic. Warm, thick. Okay, Barney, that's my cat, Barney. Hat. And it probably fits lovely. And there you have it. Your very first Addi Express professional king size hat maker. And that's your hat.